Gyanatimmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Daraji Shapadantika Gyanatimmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachani. So today is Lord Nrsingha's Appearance Day. We're going to talk about Lord Nrsingha Dev. Lord Nrsingha Dev ki jai. Sri Nrsingha Jai, Nrsingha Jai Jai Nrsingha Dev. Paladesha Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Bringha. So Lord Nrsingha Dev, he is very good at destroying obstacles to bhakti. So you can look at your obstacles and ask him to come and destroy them, just like he destroyed Hiranyakashipu. And we all have so many obstacles. Actually, if you dig deep, you'll find more and more. And the deeper you dig, the more you'll find. So today you can dig deep, look, or maybe you don't have to dig deep, maybe you already know. They say iceberg, what you see is 10%, what's underneath is 90%. So sometimes we only see a small manifestation of what's actually down there. So, so he is able to destroy, that we know, and we would like him to destroy the anarthas that are preventing us from rendering pure devotional service. And some of these anarthas, they're just there, we don't want them there, they just show up, we're not happy about them, we wish they weren't there, but they just show up. Like sometimes, someone shows up at your house and you're like, oh. In your mind, you're thinking, why did you come? I don't like you. Why don't you go home? So desires, sometimes they appear like that. And due to habit, due to conditioning, they're just there. Like we all have habits, right? We do things certain ways. And unconsciously, maybe we don't want to do it that way. That's how we do it. We're trying to work on overcoming them. Sometimes the habits are unconscious. We don't even realize we're doing them. So desire is like that. So, we can pray to Lord Nrsingha Dev that you are good at doing heart surgery and intestinal cleansings and removals. And you can take your claws and you can just like, it's ever black in my heart, and just pull it out. Just like, there's a story like that. There's so many stories about Lord Nrsingha Dev in Mayapur. And there's a story where a devotee was seeing Lord Nrsingha Dev just like pulling out everything dark, everything black. So today especially, is the day to pray to Lord Nrsingha Dev. Whatever it is that you would like removed. Sometimes there's something that's there and we feel like we can't do anything. We maybe don't even have the impetus to do it. It's just there. We don't know what to do because we'd like it to go, and we sometimes just feel like I don't know how, I've tried, or I don't want to. It's just there, it bothers me, I'm stuck, and I know I've imprison myself with my thinking, how I'm feeling, how I'm acting, and I would like to change, but I don't have the impetus. I don't have the knowledge. That's when we pray. That's what prayer is for. When you're stuck and you can't do it yourself, then you pray. And so today is the day. You have something you want to overcome, something that you need removed, or you need some inspiration to be more serious about your Krishna consciousness, pray to Lord Nrsingha Dev. You have the whole day to pray. Or you have half a day left, depending where you are. And we are meant to be self-aware, aware of what the problem is, at least a general idea. And we can pray, my dear Lord, I have no strength to deal with this, but you have the power. You can do it. You can change my heart. You can change my consciousness. You can remove these obstacles from my heart. And it's all those obstacles that are preventing love of God from manifesting. It's like, it just covers it. It's like a big pile, and there's all these things covering what it is that you need on the bottom of the pile. And so that's what's going on. So we're asking Lord Nrsingha Dev, can you, these things on the pile they're so heavy I can't lift them, could you remove them? And he will. And Prabhupada has told us countless times, Krishna will always help you if that's what you want. And this kind of helplessness is actually a sign of humility. It's part of the process of bhakti, that you feel helpless. If you feel like I can do it all myself, that's not humility. So if you feel helpless, it's not necessarily a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of weakness if you ask for help. It's a sign of weakness if you don't do anything about it. Right? Yeah. So helplessness is a sign of humility, because it's in helplessness then we ask for help. And if we don't ask for help and we think, well, I'll do it all myself, I'm so qualified or whatever, no, that's how we fail. That's the failure formula. And we are not qualified to be devotees. We can't do it on our own. So understanding that, we ask for help. And so today we ask for Lord Nrsingha Dev's help. All day we can pray for his help. And he'll help us. You know, these desires, just like destroy them. Annihilate them. Because these are the things that are preventing me from going higher in my devotional service. They're just holding me back. It's like material desires are like pulling us back. We take 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. Material desires just, they're pulling us, they're taking our attention away from Krishna. All our attention should be on Krishna. If you have love for Krishna, where's your attention going to be? Of course it'll be on Krishna. If you don't have love for Krishna, where's your attention going to be? It'll be on the things you love. That's where our attention goes. The things we're attracted to. So the attachments are what's taking energy on the mental level. So Krishna, Lord Nrsingha Dev, please remove these attachments, these obstacles, these anarthas, so that I can put my attention on you. Otherwise, I put my attention on whatever I'm attached to. Isn't it? Yeah, it's the way it works. So, yes, it's just the reality. I was reading some things yesterday in the Bhagavatam. Prabhupada was saying some very heavy things. And as I was reading, I was thinking, he was talking about death and how you're going to lose all your friends and you can't prevent it and so on. And we're all trying to hide from it and pretend it's not going to happen to us and so forth. And as I was reading that, I was thinking, nobody wants to hear this. Like, who wants to hear that? That all your friends are going to be taken away, or either they'll go first or you'll go first. And to think that and to ignore that is complete foolishness and the height of ignorance. And so, you know, we're quite comfortable in ignorance. It's kind of a sanctuary for us in a sense, because then you don't have to deal with anything and you can just pretend it's not there. So that doesn't work for bhakti. The things that are there the anarthas that are there do cause problems, and to pretend that they're not there or to not want to do the work, it's not good, because it's an impediment, and as long as we don't deal with it, the impediment remains. And the other problem is that actually the impediments can increase, because anarthas can be seen just like the bhakti creeper, like seeds. And if they remain, then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said the hearing and chanting process can actually water them. So if you have all these seeds of weeds in your garden, it's better you uproot them Because when you water the plant, you're watering the seed, right? And so it's not that just because I've been a devotee and gradually desires are diminishing, that everything's fine. No, they can increase. Because until they're entirely uprooted, then you have to be careful, right? They can overtake us. A little seed can, we're chopping it, we're cutting it, we think we're okay, but it can grow back until it's finally uprooted. And ultimately, it's not uprooted till we get to prema. So even there's something there on Baba, less than we have now for sure, but something's there. So that's kind of scary thought that we're going to have to be working even through the stage of Baba. It's possible. There's still some effects of past sin, especially effects of past offenses to the holy name, to the Vaishnavas. So these things can manifest in ugly ways. So Lord Nrsingha Dev is very kind. And if you want him to come in and do some surgery, just invite him in and ask him and tell him particularly what the problem is, where the pain is, and let him work on it. You can see him like a doctor, and you tell the doctor, I have a pain here or a pain there. So let's do that today. We all need help. We all desperately need Krishna's help, and we can't be Krishna conscious on our own without his help. That's for sure. So we should always ask for it, because we need it. Is it possible to turn that off, the refrigerator? I think we did it last time, right? You hear that hum in the background? That's the refrigerator chanting Om. No, it's not chanting Om anymore. Actually, refrigerators, it's not healthy to be near them. You know that? They emanate a lot of electromagnetic frequencies. You don't want to sleep near a refrigerator, believe me. Anyway, so to begin the story of Nrsingha Dev, you have to begin with the story of the four Kumaras trying to enter Vaikuntha. And one of the most interesting things about their entrance is their meeting with Jai and Vijay. There's 7 gates, and Jai and Vijay guard the 7th gate. So you have to get through 7. It's quite well guarded. So when they came to the 7th, they met Jai and Vijay, and so Jai and Vijay saw these little boys, 4 Kumaras, externally appear as little boys because by their own power they decided that externally they would not grow. But they're not, they look like they're 5, but they're not. They thought, we want to remain brahmachari. If we just stay like little boys, that'll be easier for us, and no women are going to be attracted to us, other than a motherly attraction. So when Jai and Vijay saw them, their immediate reaction was, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be here. Like, sometimes you're in a hotel, like a high-end hotel, and you're not dressed for it, and they can see that you actually don't stay there, and so they'll, excuse me, sir, you have a room here? No, I don't. Oh, well, you can't stay here. Something like that, like, what are you doing here? You don't belong here. And what is so interesting, they had a fight, but what's so interesting about the fight was that the 4 Kumaras were accusing Jai and Vijay of the same thing that Jai and Vijay were accusing the 4 Kumaras of. The 4 Kumaras said, what are you doing here? We made it through 6 gates, all the other guards have the intelligence to understand who we are, and you don't, so you're not even qualified as gatekeepers. So they were both arguing the same point. What are you doing here? No, what are you doing? You don't belong here. No, you don't belong here. Isn't that interesting? You ever had an argument like that? Where you're both arguing the same point? You're both accusing one another of making the same mistake? So, think about that if you ever have an argument where both you and the other party are accusing one another of doing the same thing. That's interesting. That's what kids do, right? Sometimes adults act like children, and you may catch yourself sometimes acting like a child, more than once in a day. And so you can remember this story, that now Jai and Vijay and the four Kumars are having an argument, which is, or was interesting, I'll just say it's an interesting argument, accusing one another of the same problem. And they both got quite upset with one another, because Jai and Vijay were just trying to do their duty, but four Kumars felt offended that these gatekeepers don't know what they're doing. Sometimes we need to go somewhere and the security won't let us, and we're supposed to be there. So it's frustrating. You become angry. You're supposed to perform on stage, and the security won't even let you go backstage because they've been given orders, don't let anyone backstage. Even now the band comes and they won't let you. Something like that, very frustrating. So you can imagine the four Kumars were like really frustrated, and they wanted to see Lord Vishnu, which is, of course, different than just playing in a band. And so they were extremely frustrated. Now they're not going to be able to see Lord Vishnu. And so the fight was very heated. It was pretty intense, and it was so intense. I mean, they were, I guess, shouting so loudly, or arguing so loudly, that Lord Vishnu actually heard it. So it's pretty loud. So they were pretty upset. And Lord Vishnu came. And what Prabhupada said there is very interesting. Lord Vishnu apologized on behalf of his servants. And he said that, Prabhupada said that whatever the servant does, the master is responsible for. So he took responsibility. If something goes wrong in a company, ultimately the company will apologize for the mistake of a worker, even though the worker was trained to do things properly. If they do it improperly, or as we're finding now sometimes, lately in America, someone's been asked to leave a McDonald's or mistreated at McDonald's or mistreated at Starbucks, asked to leave, and the company apologizes for the behavior of their employees. So that's what Lord Vishnu was doing. He was apologizing for the behavior of Jai and Vijay. And so that's interesting. As disciples, our behavior is reflected upon our spiritual master. So it works both ways. So our spiritual master, in a sense, is responsible for our behavior, and we're responsible to represent him properly. So one time Prabhupada told the devotees in India, he said, if you act like perfect Vaishnavas, that will glorify me. Because if you act as perfect Vaishnavas, that automatically glorifies your Guru. Because Prabhupada said, people will think, if you're acting so nicely, your Guru must be nice. I think we all think that way, right? If you sometimes a devotee, they do something which is not nice. Maybe they act harshly or extremely offensively, and a lot of times the first thought that comes to our mind is, who is their Guru? And why isn't their Guru stopping them? Isn't it? Or you see a devotee who's very nice, very humble, very sweet, very gentle, and you think, I wonder who their Guru is. This devotee is so nice, their Guru. So naturally we think that way. Anyway, isn't it? I was just watching a video of a devotee, and he makes videos primarily, basically 100% offenses, like nonstop, and he makes them every week. And he chooses a different Vaishnava to offend each week. So naturally, when I saw him, I thought, why doesn't his spiritual master stop him? Who is his spiritual master? He makes, this is what he does. This is where he invests his time. It's very interesting. So we naturally think that way. You see a nice devotee, or you see one devotee extremely offensive, you think, oh, this Guru must be so wonderful, this devotee is so nice. Or you think, who is his guru? Why isn't his guru stopping him? He's making so many offenses, or what's going on here? So Prabhupada said the same thing. You don't act nicely, it'll reflect on me. People will think, oh, your guru can't purify you? You act nicely, people will think, oh, your guru must be wonderful. He's made you wonderful. So it's to act nicely in Krishna consciousness, to act as a Vaishnava, it's a glorification of your guru, and to not act nicely, it's a blemish against your guru. Isn't it? Because just like with this devotee, naturally I was thinking, I wonder who his spiritual master is. And why did this disciple end up like this? This is a natural question we have. So, but the interesting thing happened is that all of this argument here is very interesting. If you look at it just as we look at normal dealings of ourselves. So as I said, they're both accusing one another of being unqualified. You're unqualified to be gatekeepers. No, you're unqualified to go into Vaikuntha. The argument becomes heated, and then Vishnu comes out because he hears it, and then he apologizes on behalf of his servants because he takes it as his responsibility. So, good example for a company, good example for a guru, good example for any leader. You are responsible for the people under you. The interesting thing that happened is as soon as Lord Vishnu apologized, it pacified the environment, and everybody felt bad that they were arguing. Jai and Vijay, they felt bad because Lord Vishnu was apologizing for their behavior, and then they apologized to the four Kumars and said, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. And the four Kumars said, no, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. So, just as when we're arguing, and the more we argue, the more the person argues back, in this scenario, as soon as Lord Vishnu apologized, everyone else apologized. Isn't that interesting? So he shifted it into Sattva Gun. So it was like totally in passion. Well, I guess it wasn't in passion, it was in Vaikuntha. But anyway, you understand what I'm saying. And you could say, well, how could you become angry in Vaikuntha? Well, this is a Leela. And you could say, well, Jai and Vijay were actually in Vaikuntha, they were just outside. But aside from trying to analyze it, they were angry, they were fighting. And as soon as Lord Vishnu said, I'm sorry, everyone else said, I'm sorry. It shifted everyone's energy, it shifted everyone's consciousness. And so it's a good example, if you're ever in a situation like that, if you just say, I'm sorry, it could just pacify the whole situation. And, why argue? Of course, we argue because we lose control. But otherwise, arguing, unless it's for something beneficent, something beneficial for the world, usually arguing, if it doesn't have a real merit to it, is kind of a waste of time. It's just trying to prove that I'm right and losing control and so forth. So that's apparently what happened. It seems externally there was some loss of control there. And Lord Vishnu just brought everyone back to another level by apologizing. So that's nice to remember. Now, Lord Vishnu then went on to punish Jai and Vijay for their wrong actions. So you'll have to be punished for this. Wow, interesting. So you will have to go to the material world. You can go 3 lives as a demon or 7 lives as a devotee. You have the choice. What is your choice? This is your punishment. You've offended the 4 Kumars. You did not do your duty properly. You will be punished. What is your choice? And so Prabhupada said, it's interesting, he said that they couldn't bear to be separated from Vaikuntha, from Vishnu, from their post. So they thought, It's better we take 3 births as demons, because then we'll get back faster. Now, you might think, but wouldn't a devotee, didn't Bhaktivinoda Thakur say, I'll take birth as an ant in the home of a devotee? Wouldn't a devotee want to take birth as a devotee? That makes more sense, doesn't it? Like, if you were given that choice, what would you do? Would you take 3 births? Do you think, I have to take birth as a demon? And a powerful demon? And a demon that is against Vishnu? Or I take 7 births as a devotee? You'd probably think 7 births as a devotee, wouldn't you? I would think. If you had that option, even 1 birth as a demon, you would probably think, I'll take 7 as a devotee rather than 1 as a demon. So then the question is, well, why did Jai and Vijay choose 3? And so Prabhupada said they wanted to get back, but if we look at that, we may think, but you're sacrificing 3 lifetimes as a demon to get back to your service. That doesn't make sense. So then the Acharyas have given another reason. And Jai and Vijay, being the exalted persons that they teach us a lesson. They understood the mentality of Lord Vishnu, that he wanted to go to the material world and fight. And so, if they took birth as devotees, they couldn't fulfill that service. But if they took birth as demons, then they could fight him. Krishna, he actually doesn't want to fight demons. He actually wants to fight devotees in the garb of demons. And the other thing is, like, who's Krishna going to fight? It's like for Krishna, it's like an elephant fighting an ant. It's like nobody's strong. But Krishna could empower Jai and Vijay to become these huge demons so that he could have a good fight. Have some like competitions. Like if you're an athlete and there's no competition, it's like it's not fun, Like you're 6'7" and you're playing basketball with midgets. Like, that's not really fun, is it? They can't stop you. You can just jump over everybody. So Krishna wanted somebody to fight who was a devotee, and he wanted to empower that devotee, so give them a lot of demoniac power. So Jai and Vijay, they understood. So this is another point. We should understand the mind of our master. We should understand the desire of Krishna, the desire of our spiritual master, the desire of Prabhupada. I've said before something interesting, that during Prabhupada's time, many new programs were developed, but not all the programs were developed under the specific order of Prabhupada. Many programs were developed as a result of hearing from Prabhupada and understanding what he wanted in general. And then the devotee thought, oh, we could do this, a specific program. Like we could turn a bus into a temple, and we could bring the temple out to the public. So Prabhupada never said to do that. It was an idea the devotee had. And when the devotee told Prabhupada that they did it, Prabhupada said, this is actually better than the temple. Prabhupada realized what a good idea that was. He said, this is better because now the temple comes out to the people rather than the people coming to the temple, because when the temple comes out to the people, more people will be able to take advantage of it. At least in America. And anyway, that's what Prabhupada said. He really liked the idea. But it wasn't his idea. So, understanding the mind of the spiritual master, then the devotee thinks, oh, we could do this, or we could do that, or we could serve him this way. You paint Prabhupada's room a certain color. Prabhupada liked blue. We paint it blue. Or Prabhupada likes the low desk, so we know we have the low desk. And this is what Prabhupada likes to eat. And I will do this program and this preaching, and I will arrange for Prabhupada to meet professors, and he always wants to preach and meet professors. We'll do Rath Yatra, Prabhupada's very pleased. We'll distribute so many books, whatever. So the disciple understands the mind, the heart of the spiritual master. Prabhupada obviously understood the mind and heart of his spiritual master. That's why he came to the West. You could say there was no way that Prabhupada wasn't going to come to the West. He understood this is what he was supposed to do. And that order was given to all the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta. But there was no way that Prabhupada wasn't going to do it. He understood the heart. In teaching us Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada also understood the heart, or the essence of Vaishnavism, is sadhana and preaching. And so Prabhupada very strongly, he gave us sadhana and preaching. And so we understand that we would not do anything that would deviate us from either one of those. We wouldn't minimize preaching, we wouldn't minimize the practice of sadhana, because we understand. Prabhupada gave that to us. And sometimes devotees will say, no, you should go to Radhakund and cultivate. You cultivate higher things. And say, yeah, that's nice, but that's not what my Guru wants me to do. He wants me to give Krishna consciousness to others. I know that's his heart. I understood that. I understood his mind. I saw that. I was taught that. So that's the idea. And for all of us, we're all meant to represent Prabhupada, and we're all meant to understand his mind. And just like the prayer of Rupa Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mano Abhishtam, Sri Chaitanya Mano, what's in the mind of Lord Chaitanya, Abhishtam, let that become my desire. Stavitam yena, to establish Krishna consciousness in this world, let that become my desire. Let me understand the mood of my Guru. So here, so interesting, Jai and Vijay make this decision. We will prefer to take 3 births as demons as opposed to 7 births as devotees. But the real reason is that they knew that's what Krishna wanted. Krishna wanted them to become demons because Krishna wanted to fight with them and teach so many things. So, Jai and Vijay, they left the spiritual world, or they left the gate of the spiritual world to engage in this Leela, and they became brothers by the name of Hiranyaksha. Aksha means to see, and Hiranya means gold. So maybe we could call them golden vision, golden eyes, goldy eyes, something like that. And then Hiranyakashipu, or you could call Hiranyaksha money eyes. We're in Las Vegas now, so I have all these money analogies, gold analogies. Call him money eyes. And his brother Hiranya, again money, gold, and Kashipu, soft bed. So soft bed represents sex, represents female association. So what does it mean to be a demon? It means money eyes and money sex, money and sex. You see money eyes. Everywhere he looks, he sees how to get money. And everywhere he looks, he sees how to get sex. So that's their program. So they were given the names that would characterize them. Interesting, isn't it? How in a lot of these leelas, people are given names that define their character. Duryodhana, very bad fighter. Ravana, who makes others cry, and like that. So, So they would take birth as Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, and very, very powerful demons. That was the role they were playing for Krishna's service. So, when we hear about them, we see the external manifestation as demons, but we can always remember they were doing this as seva. Interesting, right? So, Hiranyaksha, he was interesting. He had this desire to, there's just, demons like to do havoc. And so he wanted to throw the ocean in the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean. He wanted to throw the earth in the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean. That sounds like fun, right? Let's do that. I mean, we could do it. So yeah, let's just like disrupt everything, whatever. Let's just, disrupting things is like what demons do, right? They don't mind. In fact, often they like to disrupt things. All right, let's just like take the earth and I'm powerful enough, I can grab it and throw it in the ocean. So that's what he did. And then the Lord came as a boar and he lifted the earth on his tusks. And Hiranyaksha wasn't happy about that because it spoiled his fun and his plan to drown the earth. And so they had a good fight. Of course, if you want to fight, don't want to pick a fight with someone stronger than you. And if you pick a fight with Krishna, you are destined to lose unless he allows you to win. But if he doesn't want you to win, you cannot win. And so they had a good fight. Lord Krishna likes to fight, and that's why he came. And so this was his first fight. But he had the form of a boar. A boar is a big pig, but very beautiful boar, not a boar like we might see, dirty and so forth. But can't imagine how beautiful this boar is. Sometimes little baby pigs are cute. But this boar, yeah, we can't imagine how beautiful he is. Anyway, so he killed him. That was fun for Krishna. And a blessing for Hiranyaksha to be killed. To be touched by Krishna in any way is a blessing, even if it's to have your head chopped off. Then, as I always say, better have Krishna chop your head off than die of some disease or a natural death. What a blessing. You're going to have to die anyway, so if Krishna can chop your head off, what a blessing, And so he was killed, but if somebody kills your brother, how do you feel about that person? Not too good, right? So now the news got back to Hiranyakashipu. Oh, was he ever mad? He was steaming. It's said that he was so mad, he was so angry, that he became so hot and fiery that there was smoke everywhere. From his anger, from the heat of his anger. You try to meditate on this person. From the heat of his anger, it created fire. Or, I don't know, it must have created fire. It doesn't say. It said from the heat of his anger, there was smoke everywhere. What kind of person was that? So, it was at that point that he vowed that he would chop off the head of Vishnu. He's just like, at that point, he developed this terrible hatred for Vishnu. And that became his life's mission, to kill Vishnu, and not only kill Vishnu, but kill anybody, or destroy in some way, destroy or remove anyone connected with Vishnu. He just wanted nothing to do with Vishnu, which explains why you understand, it's hard to understand why Hiranyakashipu would kill his own son. He could punish him, talk to him, don't give him dinner. Say, look, we have to talk about this Vishnu stuff because Vishnu killed my brother and he's an enemy of our family and you're worshipping him and it's not working for me. That might be a starting point, right? That really wasn't the starting point. When Hiranyaksha was killed, that was it. That's when Hiranyakashipu built up this intense enmity for Vishnu. So he vowed, so his vow was, I'm going to chop the head of Vishnu and destroy the Vaishnavas, the devotees. So that was deeply seated within him. And that's why when Prahlad mentioned that I worship Vishnu, and Hiranyakashipu said, this is like, the worst thing in the world, that my son is worshipping my enemy. So Hiranyakashipu had carried this grudge deeply in his heart, very, very, very deeply. And that whole Leela was manifested out of this grudge. But that we'll get to later. Now, so Hiranyakashipu, he makes this vow, this is it. We're going to destroy Vishnu. We're going to destroy the Vaishnavas. I want nothing to do with Vishnu. I want nothing to do with the Vaishnavas. It's like, that's my mission. And as we know, he went to do austerities. And now what's interesting about this is, what austerity did he do? Well, he stood on his tiptoes with his hands up in the air. Try that. See how long you last. Right? And so he was doing this for a long time. I forget, maybe like 12,000 years. Maybe somebody knows. I haven't read the story recently about how long he did this. But some incredible amount of time. Yeah, it was a long time. On his tiptoes. No resting. Right? I mean, if you just put your hands in the air like this, I mean, if you want to do an experiment, put your hands up in the air. In a few minutes, they're going to start to they'll be a little tired. And after maybe 5 or 10 at the most, I think you're just going to want to put them down. And that's not even on your tiptoes. So, what's interesting about this, I find, is that a lot of times devotees will notice that people are very inspired, maybe more inspired than we are. They're inspired to work hard or to achieve some goal. And they get up very early, they go to bed very late, they're not lazy, they're very focused, they're very controlled, and they just work on it. Have you seen that? Just like very determined, I'm going to achieve this, whatever it is. I want to be number one at this, or I want to make a lot of money, or I want to have a TV show, radio show, I want to achieve a certain goal, and they're extremely inspired, extremely focused. They'll do anything for that. They'll sacrifice anything. They'll overcome any obstacle. Then you look at yourself, and sometimes you can hardly get out of bed and hardly finish your rounds. And, it's time for Harinam. Don't really feel like it. And, well, why waste time surfing the internet? You could read Prabhupada's books. Yeah, I know, but I don't really like reading. And you look at yourself and you think, what's wrong with this picture here? These people are so inspired and I'm not. And so Hiranyakashipu, he establishes this principle. Why was he so determined to do an austerity, which was practically impossible? Later we hear that he did it for so long that long enough for the ants to eat his flesh. How long would it take for ants to eat flesh? It takes some time. Anyway, however long it was, Devananda's trying to find out, but however long it was long. Believe me, it was a long time. And he was prepared to do it as long as necessary, because he wanted to attract Lord Brahma to give a benediction that he could live forever and become the most powerful person. It's not that he just wanted to live forever. Living forever is not that fun. But if you're the most empowered, you want to live forever, let's say you're a coal miner and you live forever and you work in a coal mine forever. That's another name for hell. So if you're a coal miner, I don't think you want to live forever, do you? Or, a garbage collector, or you just don't like your job. Your job makes you unhappy. You don't want to live forever if you had to work on that job. So it wasn't that he just wanted to live forever. He wanted to replace Vishnu. He wanted to rid the world of Vishnu, and be undefeatable. The most powerful person in the world, the one who has control over everyone and everything. And that desire was so strong, and that desire was obviously the catalyst, or part of the motivation, or what brought it to fruition was the death of his brother, being killed at the hands of Lord Vishnu in the form of a boar, Varaha. And therefore, that was it. So, we can pray, my dear Lord, Nrsingha Dev, please give me the determination, the same determination that Hiranyakashipu had. I don't have such determination. He's willing to do any austerity. Wow. But we understand that when we see materialistic people, we shouldn't think, oh, they're so great. This is very interesting. Sometimes on Facebook or on YouTube, you'll see a video of someone that overcame great challenges, and it's very inspiring. Sometimes you'll cry, and they have like beautiful music playing, and how this person was born with nothing, and it's inspiring. That's for sure. But we understand what was their motive. Their motive wasn't to serve Krishna. Their motive was to get ahead materially. And people are appreciating it and clapping and so forth. But the motive was completely selfish. Okay, this person overcame obstacles. That's inspiring. We can learn from that, no doubt. But why did they overcome the obstacle? Because they wanted to enjoy something or achieve something personally, in most cases. I mean, there may be more benevolent reasons in some cases, but I'm referring now to sometimes you hear stories of people overcoming great obstacles, but what was their motive? To live a life of increased sense gratification. And we think, oh, this is so wonderful, such an inspiring story, they have overcome so many obstacles. But we understand the power of selfishness, the power of passion. So, we could think, as people are inspired to achieve selfish goals, I should be inspired to achieve goals for Krishna. I should. So, in a sense, you can get inspired by them, or you can even feel bad that people are more inspired in their personal goals than I am in Krishna consciousness. I sometimes tell this story. It's so interesting. When I lived in Mauritius, not far from the temple, maybe a 20-minute walk, there was a golf course. And so I would usually walk early in the morning to the golf course. There's a park there. And you get there like 5:30, it's dark, and there'd be all these people out there running. And I'd think, that's inspiring. Because right now at 5:30 in the morning, there's a lot of devotees sleeping. They weren't in Mangalartik, they're fast asleep in their warm beds. And these people out running, of course, why are they running? Maybe they're overweight, they want to look good, they want to look sexy, or they just want to be healthy, whatever the reason is. But, of course, the reason is personal, so the reason isn't inspiring, but the fact that they're doing it, and in a sense, is an inspiration. So, in that sense, we can be inspired, or at least challenged, or at least consider that these people, they're really motivated. How motivated am I to be Krishna conscious? They're more motivated for money and material convenience and success, and so they're more motivated for that than I am to be Krishna conscious. That's kind of embarrassing. When Krishna consciousness is actually valuable, and achieving success in this world, it's not that valuable. It ends with this body. And they're more motivated. We should feel challenged, maybe embarrassed, and at least to understand that motivation they have, that drive they have, that's a very human tendency, which we can employ in Krishna's service. So Hiranyakashipu was completely fixed. He is our emblem. You have a goal. You set the goal, nothing's going to stop you being fixed. He is the person, He is the one. He went through more austerities, more difficulties than anybody. So, now, Hiranyakashipu is an interesting character. Pretty heartless guy. He doesn't mind killing people at all. And that was his mission. He had this amazing mission. You know what his mission was? He was thinking, look it, Vishnu is my enemy, and the demigods worship Vishnu. So We have to kill Vishnu, and we have to kill the demigods, and we have to stop Brahminical culture, because once we do that, get rid of the cows, kill Brahminical culture, kill all demigods who worship, then I'm good to go. There's no one in the way. So he made this plan. He was not on the earth, but he made this plan. We will destroy everyone on the earth. And he made a plan and sent his soldiers to the earth and just, like in Vietnam, they used to go in villages or drop bombs and just burn them. Napalm. The planes would drop napalm, and sometimes these villages, just innocent people in villages, and they would burn their village, or the soldiers would come in and just burn, just come in and burn a house down of a family. Just horrible things. So that's what he was doing. He was like, go. Burn down all the hermitages, burn down everybody's house, burn down all the people, all the cows, all the Brahmins. It's like, that was his plan. It's like, what a demon. It was just like, kill everybody. Why do you want to kill everybody? So, because I don't want anything to do with Vishnu, and these people worship Vishnu. And then these Brahmins are worshipping the demigods worship Vishnu. If the Brahmins don't worship the demigods will die, and I can reign. So he was just like trying to remove all the obstacles. And if killing everybody is what's required, then we'll do it. What's the problem? You got a problem with killing everybody? What's your problem? Just do it. And his demon cohorts were like, yeah, let's do it. So Hiranyakashipu manifests to the nth degree the mentality of a demon, which as Krishna describes in the Gita, he's my enemy and I've killed him, and when the more enemies come, I'll kill them. And in describing what Hiranyakashipu was doing, Prabhupada refers to Bhagavad Gita, I think it's 16:9, 10, and 11, where Krishna says they perform unbeneficial works meant to destroy the world. Prabhupada said that was in reference, you could see it as a reference to the atomic bomb, but if you expand it, you can see how we're destroying the earth today. So pollution of rivers, pollution of air, and so forth, that's part of the destruction process, destruction of the land, and so forth. And so here you have Hiranyakashipu, the archetype, the demon archetype, and just, if someone's in your way, just kill them. Yeah, if it's a whole country, no problem, just kill them. Yeah, if it's all Brahmins, just get rid of them. So, of course, Brahmins control Kshatriyas, so, he wants to be all-powerful. I don't need any Brahmins telling me what to do. And when the leaders have no Brahmins telling them what to do, that's pretty much the end of human civilization. It's downhill from there. And that's what happened. Kali Yuga, the Brahmins became weak, degraded. And when the Brahmins become weak and degraded, then it's over. It's the beginning of the end. So, you look into the mentality of Hiranyakashipu, it's like if you wanted to do a study of demoniac mentality, just study Hiranyakashipu. Study his mentality, his modus operandus. He's willing to kill anybody to achieve his goal. And he's willing to do anything to achieve his goal. There's nothing he wouldn't do to achieve his goal. And he's willing to kill the whole Brahmin class, burn all the cows, and he's willing to kill his son. You might think, someone's, maybe Al Capone would kill anyone who got in his way, but he wouldn't kill his son. It's like, spare him. Okay, maybe his son turned against him, all right, whatever. The bad son. But to kill your son, that's pretty bad. So Hiranyakashipu, he was ready to kill anyone, as Krishna says. He's my enemy and I've killed him, and I'll kill anyone who gets in my way. So that's, Hiranyakashipu manifests that. So not only was he a good contender for fighting with the Lord, and Krishna wanted to fight, but he also teaches us about demoniac mentality. And what I find so interesting, if you study the demoniac mentality of Hiranyakashipu, sometimes we stand back and think, oh yeah, that's a demon and I'm a devotee. No. it's good to understand demoniac mentality because we have it, maybe not to that degree, but we have some of it. You know, a lot of times I joke and I think, you know, like I feel somebody upsets me and I feel a certain way, and I think, if I wasn't a devotee, I might do this or I might say that. But I'm a devotee, so I can't say that. It's not right. I'm not going to do that. But so that demoniac tendency, it's there. Maybe the Prabhupada said in Kali Yuga, there's no real big demons. Everything's small in Kali Yuga. Hiranyakashipu, he's really a big demon. Now, Hiranyakashipu is an interesting character because after Hiranyaksha died, then the wives of Hiranyaksha, the relatives of Hiranyaksha, everybody that was close to him was obviously upset and lamenting. And now Hiranyakashipu thought, this is not good. We can't function. Everybody in the family is upset. I have to pacify them. So how did he pacify them? He spoke philosophy, that you're not the body. He told stories from the Puranas about wives lamenting for their husbands, and told a story about Yamaraj coming as a little boy and coming to the wives who lost their husbands and telling them that this is all temporary, it's not real. And he knows, he has all this knowledge, and he actually pacified everyone in his family by preaching. And he preached excellently. It's there. If you study the story of Lord Nrsingha Dev, you'll see that he goes on and on and on and on, like fantastic preacher. He knows everything. And he's also quoted in Shastra about talking about association. And you reflect like glass or stone who you associate with. Their qualities become your qualities, either good or bad. So, now Prabhupada said an atheist denies the existence of the soul. You know, Prabhupada refers to scientists who deny the existence of the soul, and atheists. There's no God, there's no soul. And here, Hiranyakashipu, he's a unique kind of, I don't know, you cannot call him an atheist per se, because he believed in Lord Vishnu. He just didn't like him. He believed that like Lord Vishnu was his enemy, and so you have to get rid of him. And so here, he understands Shastra, he's preaching Shastra, he's using Shastra. Okay, so that's another symptom of demon. If you can use Shastra for your own ends, why not? You know? Anyway, he understood Shastra, that's the point, and he used Shastra, so he's a very interesting person, to say the least. And, you know, we always have to be concerned that demoniac people get a hold of Scripture. And the Christians say the devil also quotes the Shastra, the Scripture. So when demoniac persons get hold of Scripture, things are not good. And so, but somehow or other, he utilized Shastra in a proper way, and he pacified the family with philosophy. You're not the body. Life is temporary. Which is, isn't that interesting? Because his whole modus operandus was to control the universe and become eternal somehow or other. And he's preaching that life is temporary and nothing, you know, don't lament. So it's like, try to figure this guy out, you know, it's very interesting, you know. That's like, it seems like demoniac mentality is like, okay, if we preach philosophy, I can pacify them. Whether I believe it or not, or apply it or not, whatever, let's just use it because it'll work. Okay. And it's kind of like, it's practical, utilitarian. All right, if it works for me, yeah. If I can quote Shastra, if it solves my problem, yeah, why not? We'll bring it in. Who cares? So that's kind of the mentality. If it works for us, yeah. If it doesn't work for us, then throw it out. So, so he preached very well, and everyone was pacified. And then, you know, he's doing his austerity, and now he's doing his austerity, and fire is coming out of his head. And this fire is going throughout the universe. Now try to figure that one out. How powerful is this person that he's producing so much heat that the heat's going to the upper planets and the demigods can't even stay on their planet? How hot is that? You know, talk about global warming. This is like way beyond global warming. This is universal fire. So the whole universe is hot from his austerity. Like what kind of powerful person is this that could he could heat up his whole head.
10,000 years.
10,000. I was only off 2. Yeah, he did the austerity for 10,000. Earth years or demigod years? Doesn't say. Anyway, it's a long time. 10,000 years of austerity. I challenge you to hold your hands up for 10 minutes. He did it for 10. Stand on your tiptoes and hold your hands up. Can you last 10 minutes? Let's see. Send me your how long you can do it on Facebook. Yeah, right? No, probably it's not worth trying, but you could understand it's not something an ordinary person could do. So now the demigods are going crazy. So there's this person who's got so much power that his austerity is producing heat that's burning the universe, and there was smoke everywhere, fire everywhere, and the demigods are completely frightened by this person. So they go to Vishnu, say, we have trouble here with Hiranyakashipu. And of course, Lord Vishnu, he always says, I got it under control, I know what's going on, don't worry, I'll take care of everything. But still, the demigods, when they cannot handle a situation, and because they're administrators on behalf of Vishnu, they always go to Vishnu and say, this is beyond my pay level, I can't deal with this. I wasn't trained to deal with Hiranyakashipu. So they go to Lord Vishnu, and Lord Vishnu says, yeah, we'll deal with it, we'll take care of him. And of course, Hiranyakashipu was petitioning Lord Brahma, and Hiranyakashipu had his plan, take over the universe, become eternal, undefeatable, live forever. It's kind of, subtly I think so many people have this idea, live forever, be powerful, undefeatable. So Lord Brahma said, nah, you're asking me to make you eternal? I die. How can I give you something I don't have? So he had to, as we know the story, he had to settle. He thought he was smart, thought he would outsmart death. He said, well, if you can't give me eternality, let's think of conditions by which someone could die. So he thought, okay, inside, outside, day and night, man, animal, weapon, he just went through his mind and thought of everything. Of course, Krishna's in his heart, so Krishna can trick him. And, he didn't think, well, I won't be killed by a man or an animal, won't be inside or outside. He didn't think, well, what about a man and animal in one body? What about in a threshold at twilight? He didn't think like that. And Krishna didn't let him think that way, because Krishna's going to take care of him, and so, you can outsmart God. So he thought he was outsmarting God, outsmarting the universe. He figured it out. He figured every condition. Sometimes we think we're smart, we can outsmart the universe. No. Even Hiranyakashipu, who was much smarter than us, Krishna didn't let him figure this one out. And it's just like, hey, Hiranyakashipu, sorry, you forgot a few things, like, you want to be eternal, undefeatable, but you forgot some things. You blew it. Okay, you blew it. You're not that smart, all right? Krishna, apohanam cha. You just took away, a few details you should have thought of, he took away. So Lord Brahma was thinking, okay, yeah, all right, why not? Now, the problem is, in ordinary circumstances, Hiranyakashipu would have been all powerful, because those are the conditions, those are the normal conditions by which everyone dies. So when Hiranyakashipu got those benedictions, he thought, okay, I'm good to go, I'm undefeatable, I'm not going to die. Of course, Lord Nrsingha Dev came and defiled those benedictions, and later the Lord chastised Brahma and said, don't do that again, because, I had to come and interrupt this, don't give these benedictions to big demons. Anyway, so we'll talk more about the story tomorrow, but we have some question here. earlier when I began. I think we'll talk about the story until we are satisfied that we've gone deeply into it. We see sometimes devotees being frustrated in the material world, still being young, going to Vrindavan to be bhajananandis. What do you think about such ideas? I was actually thinking about this yesterday. And I was trying to understand the mentality of someone who at a young age, before they're qualified, wants to retire and become a bhajananandi. And the reason I was thinking about this is I was thinking, I never had that mentality, and I was trying to think, why didn't I have that mentality? Is this it's solely because I learned from Prabhupada not to do this, or it was just my nature not to jump? It was probably a little of both, but the point is, if you're coming in the line of Srila Prabhupada, how could you think this way? Because Prabhupada preached the opposite. He said, Prabhupada said, there's enough monkeys in Radhakund, You go there to be a bhajananandi and end up, getting women pregnant. So we don't need more monkeys. That's monkey business. That was his point. Prabhupada, of course, pushed us to preach. And of course, Prabhupada was preaching all the way till the end of his life. So, and Prabhupada mentioned in the Bhagavatam, he would like to retire, but it was never going to happen. It was not Prabhupada's mood. Neither could he. We were incompetent. Neither did he want to, ultimately. And so Prabhupada never set that example. Now, if we're meant to do that, you could argue that Prabhupada would have done it and say, look when you hit a certain stage of your life, this is what you do. Which is 70, 75, when Prabhupada came, he gave up his bhajananandi life. You see, Prabhupada's heart is so soft and so full of compassion. He had to use every breath that he had right up to the end of his life to save people, because that's where his heart was. And so he showed us that's what it means to be a Vaishnava. And I told this story before that my godbrother told. That is a shocking story. This godbrother was in India traveling with Prabhupada, and he wanted to remain a brahmachari, but he was finding it difficult to live in the city and be a brahmachari, or be closely associated with brahmacharinis that were traveling around India with the men. And he asked Prabhupada if he could go to Rishikesh and to stay in some ashram in Rishikesh, or live there, kind of isolation. And Prabhupada said, please don't do that. Then Prabhupada, he said, this is his story, it is amazing, and he said that Prabhupada said, I wasted so many years living in Vrindavan. In other words, I should have been out in the world preaching, but I was in Vrindavan. Please don't do that. Please don't make the mistake I made. That's why the devotee told this story. So I think that story answers the question. I think it's also a bit presumptuous for a young devotee to think he's qualified to be a bhajananandi. And Prabhupada told us that his Guru Maharaj didn't like it when his disciples wanted to be bhajananandis, and he encouraged them to go out and preach. And we know, and Prabhupada told us, we know by experience, and Prabhupada told us, we need to preach for our own purification. We need to go out and share Krishna consciousness with the world for our own purification. But to me, the most significant thing is the point I made before, that Prabhupada's heart was so full of compassion, he couldn't retire. It was just not possible that he could retire. It's just all he thought about was how to give Krishna consciousness to others. And he taught us that that's what a Vaishnava means, and he told us to do that. And we need to do that, and that's Prabhupada's mood. So it wasn't his mood to become a bhajananandi. He allowed one devotee to be a bhajananandi because that devotee was diagnosed with a uncurable disease, or incurable. Is it uncurable or incurable? Or is it both? I think it's incurable. Anyway, he was diagnosed with incurable disease, and he asked Prabhupada, in this condition, because I know I'm going to die, can I become a bhajananandi? And Prabhupada allowed him, and so He lived as a Bhajananandi, and he only ate when food was given to him. He wore a little cloth up to his knees, like a gamsha, white, and a little chadar, and just stayed in his room and read and chant. That's all he did. He just read and chant all day. And somehow or other, he didn't die. And then he went back with his wife and so on and so forth. And that was the only time Prabhupada gave anyone Bhajananandi. And he was a young man. He was probably 25. And obviously he couldn't do it. I don't think any of us could do it. But our bhajan is giving Krishna to others. That's our bhajan. So we are Bhajananandis. Our bhajan is to give Krishna to the world. And Prabhupada's heart was that's the point. Prabhupada's heart was give Krishna to the world. These people are suffering, we must save them. Yesterday I was reading about how Prabhupada was talking in this story about Hiranyakashipu wanting to destroy the Brahminical culture. And Prabhupada was talking about Brahminical culture, and he was saying how if the Brahmins don't guide the Kshatriyas, then society will degrade. And then he was talking about Varnashram and the duties of Kshatriyas, duties of Brahmins, and so on. And what's so interesting when Prabhupada talks about this, he's talking about it in terms of how to help the world. Not just how to make a few people devotees, but how to help the world. How to establish a social order in which people gradually become Krishna conscious. So that means he's thinking about everybody. He's thinking how you can inject Krishna consciousness into the whole world, into every society, in every situation, and ultimately to get Krishna in the heart of everyone in some way. That's how Prabhupada's thinking. So like we began this class by saying that we should understand the mind of the spiritual master. So if anyone understands the mind of Prabhupada, why would they become a Bhajananandi? If someone's in ISKCON and they become a Bhajananandi when they're 25 years old, something went wrong. They just didn't understand. Now, if you're not in ISKCON and you're not following Prabhupada, then it might happen that you might be encouraged to do that by the Babaji class or whatever, but that was not what Prabhupada encouraged us to do. He encouraged us to do the opposite. Yes. You're older, you're qualified, then we can talk about it. But particularly younger, no, never. Never. Prabhupada never encouraged it. So why don't we end here? And we'll see you tomorrow at the same time, and we'll continue discussing the story of the appearance of Lord Nrsingha Dev, and hope you have a wonderful appearance day. And as we said, pray for Lord Nrsingha Dev too. Take care of your material desires and anarthas. Oh, we have more discussion. We see the different devotees understand sharing Krishna consciousness in different ways, which sometimes causes friction. How can we cooperate better? In sharing to please Srila Prabhupada. Well, I don't know specifically what you're referring to, but, Prabhupada he gave us, there's so many ways to share Krishna consciousness. Now, if somebody wants to share it in a particular way and that's not the way you like sharing it, don't discourage them if what they're doing is also valuable and valid and bona fide. It just may not be the way you do it. Some devotees love distributing prasadam, opening restaurants, whatever. Some love preaching in universities. Some love preaching heavy, just like really, debating, challenging scientists. Some like preaching in the yoga community. Some like preaching in a particular angle to a particular class of people. So some like distributing books in a very soft and gentle way. Some like doing it. Some have a different style. Everybody's different. Some are very funny. Some are very witty. Some are good salesmen. Some are just very humble, simple devotees. So if what they're doing is bona fide, and we can evaluate if it's bona fide by two things. Are they following Krishna consciousness principles, and is it effective? Are they following Krishna consciousness in their own life? Is the means they're using a valid Krishna conscious process, and is it working? And if the answer is yes, then why should we oppose it? It may not be the way we want to do it, but we can appreciate that's what they're doing. You know, there's so many cultures around the world, and so people are different. So, you know, it's not that because I'm American, I think everyone should think like an American. And people think differently, and so, you know, some devotees are very conservative, some are very liberal, and there's people that need and thrive on very conservative preaching. That's how they were raised, that's how they think, that's how they relate to. I was just reading when Hiranyakashipu was telling his stories. Prabhupada was talking about the death, the story, Hiranyakashipu was relating a story of the death of a husband. They think his name was Suyagya. And how the wives were lamenting, and how in that culture, saha marana, that saha means along with, and marana means death, along with their husband's death, they would die. And that was just normal in that culture. Their husband died, and they were so close to their husband. They had their whole life just depended and evolved around their husband. They had no reason to live. If their husband were dead, there's just no reason to live. And so voluntarily, they would go into the funeral pyre, the fire that was burning their husband's body. They would voluntarily do that. It was amazing. You know, it's not like they took something that put them to sleep, but they voluntarily killed themselves, right? And then there was a time in India where women were being forced to do that. And then the British stopped that. So when I was reading that, I was thinking, how society has changed so much. And Prabhupada was just praising the love that a wife had for her husband. You know, where do you find that kind of love in a wife for her husband now? So, you know, you're in a different culture. So you can't, you know, go out at a Sunday feast and tell all the women, you know, when your husband dies, make sure you cremate him and jump in as well. You know, that's not going to work. Now, Prabhupada in the purport said even 50 years ago, which meant about 1920, I guess, as he said, still he knew of a woman who did that. So he wasn't putting it down, he was actually praising it, saying that if a woman voluntarily wants to do that, if she's so devoted to her husband that she can't live without him, then let her do that. But obviously society has changed today, and as I was reading this story, I was thinking how difficult it is for people to be married today, because we're so selfish. It's so hard for us to give up our own needs, and we have so many demands on people and one another, and having a good marriage is not an easy thing now. So what to speak of a devoted wife? I mean, imagine you had a wife who's so devoted, she doesn't want to live without you. She's, you know, kind of easy, don't you think? You know, it'd be easier on the men to have a good marriage. And the whole culture of marriage would be different. So, you know, if you were preaching in a culture like that, then you could preach about such things. And it would make sense to the people. And the people would say, yeah, this is our culture. But now we're preaching in a different culture. And so... and the world is different. And I was preaching in Israel, and we did a program with Arabs, and they have a different culture than the Israelis. And they're very traditional, and like everything I said, they're just like, yeah. They understand it. Like people of these traditional cultures, they understand things. They understand traditional wisdom. This all makes sense to them. And now you go to university and you preach traditional wisdom, and you'll never see those students again. They'll never come back to another program. It's just a different world. So, you know, according to who you're preaching to, you have to adapt to their mentality so you can explain Krishna consciousness in a way that makes sense to them, in a way they can apply it and understand it. So if I'm preaching to a conservative group, or I'm a conservative person who feels that there are lots of conservative people who will relate to what I'm preaching, then why should I stop you? Why should I criticize you? Or if you're preaching to a liberal group, you're preaching to academia, which is the most liberal, always has been, always will be, and student and young people, or you're preaching to a yoga group and they think a certain way, and so you preach that way, then I should just appreciate it. But maybe I don't feel that those are the people I want to preach to, or I don't feel that's the best way to address people, so I do the best I can, and may the best man or woman win. We'll see by the results who's successful. Because I can criticize you that you shouldn't preach that way or do this, but if you're distributing thousands of books, making hundreds of devotees, how can I criticize you? I can say that's not a good way to preach, but Prabhupada said, show me the results. So, you could say my method's best, I can say my method's best, but we'll see which method is best. We'll see who is making people Krishna conscious. So Prabhupada judged it that way. Of course, in some countries, you may have the right strategy, it's just people aren't ready for Krishna consciousness. It's like that. Other places, I was with a devotee in South Africa, and he was in a very conservative area, and he could hardly make any devotees. Where in the more liberal areas, they're making all kinds of devotees. So that also may be a factor. But generally, if you say you're preaching, Prabhupada would say, well, show me the results. You're preaching. What's this preaching you're doing? Where are the results? Are people becoming Krishna conscious? Are books being distributed? Are temples being opened? Is prasadam being distributed? Are festivals going on? Are devotees under your care advancing? You have to evaluate it. So if I'm criticizing you as being too heavy a preacher, or too conservative, or too liberal, or too wishy-washy, or whatever, but let me look at are the people that you're preaching to, are they becoming Krishna conscious? Are they advancing? And if they are, how can I criticize you? I have no right. But maybe I'm not so inclined to preach the way you preach. Maybe I'm not so inclined to go out and preach scientifically and expose the falsities of science and evolution. Maybe that's not my nature. That's fine. But someone else is doing it. Don't criticize them. They're heavy. They're preaching strongly. In that arena, sometimes you have to. You have to be nice. You have to be friendly and so forth. But in that arena, sometimes you have to be very strong. Dhruta Karma told me that he was preaching about evolution, and he said a lot of times in universities people would just argue and get so frustrated they'd walk out of the class. They couldn't listen to him so that's his preaching style. Not his preaching. That's the cultural milieu that he preaches in. That he's going to upset people by what he says because they don't want to hear it, and he can do that, and he's fine with it. And maybe you don't want to preach that way. You don't want to upset people. So his upsetting people that's the consequence. And sometimes Prabhupada said, good preaching will upset people. At least in this case, it's good preaching, it's factual, and people don't want to face the reality. So he's upsetting them, and that's a sign of success. And you may say, oh, you're upsetting people, you're not a good preacher. But in that situation, that is the sign that he's a good preacher. But it might not be the way you want to preach. So that's okay. So support him, be encouraging of him. There was a debate around the debate about women gurus was the debate about what should women do. Should women just be at home, be mothers, be grandmothers, not be preachers, not be leaders, and like that. And so one devotee, he proposed a good solution, which I appreciated. He said, we can't say to all women you should be one way or the other, but we can't say you shouldn't be. If you want to have the role of a mother, grandmother, not be a preacher, not be a leader, nobody should stop you from doing that. And if you want to be a professor and the head of a religious department at Harvard and spread Krishna consciousness in academia, and you already have 3 PhDs, nobody should prevent you from doing that either. We should be supportive of both. But a lot of times in the controversy, we try to support one and deny the other. No, support both of them. And I think that's the best solution. And the reason that's the best solution is because that's what's going to happen anyway, right? It's not going to happen any other way. Even if you say, no, women should just stay at home. You say, no, women, Prabhupada wanted them to preach, they should all go out. It's going to happen anyway. Some will stay at home, some won't. Everyone's different, right? So we can end there, and we'll see you tomorrow, same time. 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol.